Well, welcome everybody to another edition of Lewis at Large. Yours truly, Warner Lewis with a flight deck, and of course that means some Smart Talk Radio is in your future, and this segment is certainly no exception. A man that I'm very excited to spend some time with and share with you all today, Coach Howard Schellenberger, and an extraordinary football life coach, player, mentor, now author, played for the great ones and also coached the great ones at numerous colleges, as well as the National Football League. Should be a good half hour indeed. Coach, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing fine, and glad to cross the Mississippi River once in my lifetime.
Well, we're glad. We know you spent some time at Oklahoma. We'll talk about that, but we also want to talk about a brand new work you've got out called Passing the Torch, Building Winning Football Programs with a Dose of Swagger Along the Way. Let's start at the beginning and tell us how in the world you got into football in the beginning. Were you a multi-sport athlete? Was football always your thing?
Well, let's go to high school. I started high school in '48, and Paul Horning and I were on the same team, and we had a coach named Paulie Miller coming back out of the war. I think that the fact that the coaches were coming out of the war and coming back to at home, marry, have children, coach. They were special, and my coach there was really special, Paulie Miller, and he was a Hall of Fame coach, and he coached us to a state championship in 4 years, and then graduated from there. And Paul Bryant recruited me down to University of Kentucky, and I spent 2 years with him there. And then he left and went on to A&M, and then Blanton Collier came in and finished my junior and senior year, and we had a good football team. I was fortunate enough to become an All-American there. And then after going through a Canadian Football League and then getting my first job at the University of Kentucky for Blanton Collier, who was still there coaching. And that's, was a start. And then from there to Alabama and so on.
What did you, again, the great coaches pick up great things from other great coaches along the way. As a player, from Bear Bryant and Blanton Collier, my gosh, two gigantic names in football coaching lore. What did you pick up from them? I mean, if nothing specific, just overall, what did you pick up and carry forward?
Well, let's talk about all five of my Hall of Fame coaches. I'm the only guy I know that had the good fortune to be lucky enough to have been trained by Blanton Collier, Paul Bryant, Don Shula, George Allen, and those five guys, and I learned just like the painters that were working for were studying under Rembrandt. I was there by osmosis. Didn't have to go to study hall. Didn't have to go to the library. I was right there with them day and night for all those years, and they gave me a preparation for the Miami thing, the Louisville thing, not the Oklahoma thing, because I wasn't prepared for that, but for the University of Louisville and Florida Atlantic. So that's in a nutshell is the what I can lay claim to that allowed me to become a pretty good coach.
Let me ask you something. As a guy that has seen so many changes in the game, in a lot of ways it maybe still very well feel the same to you, but over time, could Bear Bryant, Blanton Collier, would they be successful again today, or has the face of the game changed at all?
Actually, they'd probably be more successful because nobody else is doing what they did back there. You look at what's happening at Alabama right now with Saban there. Saban is an incarnation of Bryant. He's got a different personality and such, but the basic root is he is still a disciple of Paul Bryant, and he's going to be there every year winning the thing or losing in the last game of the year or something. And there's a lot of coaches like that that are still out there, and even though the discipline and the amount of time you can practice and all those things that have been taken down by the new younger group of people that are the hierarchy in our game. The guys that are going to be there year in, year out are the guys that still have the same attributes that Bryant and General Neyland and Bud Wilkinson and all those guys had.
What about is today's athlete? Would you, again, you coach for so long, would you change any of your style? Is it a different way you communicate with today's athlete versus one maybe in the 60s?
No. The coach does the same thing he's always done, and the people that you bring in, they know before they come in who you are and how you do it. And most of them will come there because you're there. And they want, most of those guys don't have dads at home, and they're one family, and they've got so much other stuff going on around them. They look for guidance. They look for discipline. They thrive on it. And if you hold truth to your soul, you'll be successful.
Again, if you just joined us, yours truly, Warner Lewis from the flight deck of Lewis at Large Radio. Got a good one going with Howard Schellenberger, one of America's tremendous personalities, a longtime colorful and successful football coach at the college and the National Football League as well. Coach, just overall in general, did you like the college game more than the pros? I assume you did.
Well, of course I did. I think everybody that coached both of them feel the same way. It's a different game altogether. I mean, it's the same rules, virtually the same rules and all that, but the basic fundamentals are different. There's a different relationship between the coaches and the players at the college level and the coaches and the players at the professional level. Now, Don Shula and George Allen and those guys, they did a super job of handling that situation, and there are coaches that can do that, but our job in the college level is to get these kids in. They come in at 18 years old, 17 years old, 18 years old, and they leave at 22 and 23 years, and that 4 or 5 year period of time is they're impressionable. They're impressionable, and they're looking for the answers. They're looking to be coached, and they're looking to be disciplined. Sure, they're not always, looking to be disciplined, but they respond better to it than you would think they would.
Coach, you brought up earlier you felt you made a mistake. Obviously, we're not prepared at the University of Oklahoma. Tell us a little bit about that, and what did you learn from that?
I was prepared by all these guys that I coached for were all builders. Coach Bryant went to Alabama when they had 4 years where they couldn't beat Tom Thumb. They hadn't won more than 2 games when he got in there. He came down there and turned the whole thing around, and in 4 years he won a national championship and then had that dynasty. Don Shula took on a startup team, a new team came to Miami, and they hadn't won more than 2 games in the 3 years that the other coach had them before Don. Don came in there in the first year, he wins 10 games and gets to the playoffs. In 3 years, he wins every game he plays and had an undefeated season like nobody else has ever had, never will have. And the same thing is true with all the other coaches too. They were all builders, and then after they built it, then they stayed in place and developed their dynasties. And so I had learned that from those 5 guys, and that's the reason why when I took the job at Miami, and I realized that I was a unique person. Not that I'm a unique person, but my schooling was unique. So that when I went to Miami and they were about to give up football, I could see that if I could do what I was taught to do by Brian Shula and all those guys, I could change that whole culture down there and get them all to think they could win the national championship. That's the reason why I had to say down there early on, the first year, we're going to win the national championship in 5 years. And boy, I just thank God everybody believed it and everybody joined in, and together we had an onslaught. We got better every game for 5 years, and thank God the last game was the best game we ever played when we beat Nebraska.
Yeah, that was amazing. I want to take you also to another season. We're going to hop to the NFL here for a second. You were offensive coordinator in '72 during the Dolphins' amazing, perfect season, the only one in the NFL history. What was that? Tell us about that. What led to that, and why that team, and why that year?
Don Shula, and Joe Thomas. Joe Thomas had been there, and he had brought in some good players. He was GM, and he drafted some good players, and then he and Don that made some really good trades. But the big thing was Don Shula had been coached by Paul Brown of Cleveland Browns fame, the granddaddy of the entire NFL.
Yeah,
and he was the difference, and we coached, but we back in those days, and with Don, and he did it to the bitter end. We coached them like they were college kids, and of course it was so different then. None of the players made as much as Don did. They made as much as us assistant coaches made, and a lot of them more than we made. But money was no big thing. A lot of the kids had to work in the off season to make enough money to live. So it was more like a college situation. That's the problem in the National Football League. Everybody's making too much money, and it's hard to become a tough, non-pretentious competitor when your house is paid for and your cars are paid for and you got money in the bank and you got a pension. And I think it was said in the scripture that it's harder for a camel to pass through an eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to attain heaven. And that's the same way with us in football. If you're not hungry, you're not going to be very good.
You had the opportunity to recruit and/or coach an amazing group of quarterbacks, ranging from Joe Namath, Kenny Stabler, Earl Morrall, Bob Greasy, so on and on and on. Was there one in particular, so to speak, that you would claim is the best, or were they all in their own right?
I would never do that.
Yeah,
because they were all at the top of their game.
Yeah.
In the point in time, and it would be impractical and unkind to single anyone out.
What about, I think I know the answer to this already, but as a coach, did you prefer the practices or the games?
The combination of the two, one without the other, wouldn't have been worth a damn.
What about as again we go back, and again we want to get to the book here, because that's really the impetus, so to speak, for the conversation, called Passing the Torch: Building a Winning Football Program with a Dose of Swagger. What's the motivation for the book, and is it something you always wanted to do, or tell us about how that came about?
Well, it came about through my 56 years of coaching, and as it got closer, it got to the end of my career, the more people kept asking me, when are you going to write your book? And I kept saying, I'm going to write my book when the final chapter has been written in my legacy. So it came to pass that I retired in 2011 from Florida Atlantic University and stayed on here as ambassador at large, working for the president, that the time had come for me to write the book, and so I proceeded to look into what you have to do to write a book, and found out it was a pretty complex situation.
Yeah.
But I was able to find the guy right in my own backyard named Ron Smith. He'd been an editor of the Boca News when I started this program, and I really enjoyed his writing. And I talked with him, and he wanted to do it. In fact, he came to me when he found out I wanted to do a book, and said he would love to do the book, and let's do it. And I said, the only thing I ask you to do, or insist you to do, or you won't get paid to do it. If you don't make it sound exactly like my voice. And he did a magnificent job of I don't know how you say that. He homogenize the whole thing, and damn if it doesn't sound like me when I read the book. And we've got a lot of 3-letter words in there, and a lot of 4-letter words, a few 5-letter words, no 6-letter words or 7-letter words. And it's a coach telling his life story.
What, again, passing the torch, building winning football programs, share with our Lewis at Large listeners, if you would, what, just from a high-level point of view, what do you got to have? What are some of the ingredients of all winning football programs?
Well, they're pretty much all the same, and that's the reason why I said when I got the job at Oklahoma, I wasn't prepared for that. I was prepared to come in where there was nothing. Miami was going to drop football. Louisville was worse than that. And then the third one, FAU, there was no team. So, and I was always hired by the president, and the president gave me his full support. I didn't have to worry about athletic directors or anything like that in either one of those three places. So that I could do a lot of new and different things. And throughout the book, you'll see a lot of stuff that's not X's and O's. In fact, a book like this should be about 50% X's and O's. There's not 25% in this book that's X's and O's. It's all the things that are a little bit ahead of the X's and O's, or a little bit behind it, or a little bit causing it to happen. There's things like when I went to Miami, we wanted to make a major splash to get the people out of their misery down there, and get the whole community to be involved. So we took our football team 222 miles away up to Cape Kennedy, right before the first space shuttle went out, and we were going to run a football. Our football team was going to run down A1A 222 miles down to the Fontainebleau Hotel at South Beach, and we were going to raise money for Easter seals. Well, what we did was we came down that highway. We had a police escort, and we stopped at every town. Towns were about 15 miles apart, 10 miles apart, and it took us 2 full days to run down there. But we left a trail behind us that showing everybody on this side of the Everglades that the University of Miami has going to have a different style and was going to be a different team, and they were going to be community oriented, and we were going to nourish our fan base. We were going to interplay with the students, and up in Kentucky, I wanted to take my football team to Fort Knox, Kentucky, to see what training camp is like, because I was going to give them training camp, and I wanted to show them that what we're doing in training camp is not near as tough as what these 18-year-old kids are doing, 17-year-old kids are doing out there at Fort Knox in basic training. So it's a conglomeration of what it takes to take something has never been good and make it forever good.
Coach, what about if we're down at Florida Atlantic University walking around campus? Are we going to find you at practice every day watching?
No, but I'm selling the program. Ambassador at large. Geraldo Rivera is my patron saint.
Okay.
He shows up everywhere. He showed up in Saudi Arabia one day, and and Ambassador at large has a lot of privileges, and you got a lot of insights. You underground, you can do a lot of things. So I'm here working for the president and for the athletic department and for the university, and like I'm doing now on these calls that I'm getting here in my declining years. I'm speaking to more people in America than I've ever had a chance to do before, and all of this is focused in. Where am I? I'm right here in Florida Atlantic University. I've been here 17 years, and I was at Louisville 10, I was at Miami 5, and I was with the Dolphins for 5, and George Allen for 4, and this is my last hurrah.
Well, it sounds. I assume you still stay in touch with a lot of your former players.
Yes, we do, and they call me, and I call them, and we run into each other, and whenever they do something good, I write them or text them, and we stay in contact.
Well, it has been a pleasure talking to you again. The work is called Passing the Torch, building winning football programs with a dose of swagger along the way. Coach, how can people pick up a copy of the book and find out a little bit more about what you're up to these days?
Well, the easiest way is just go to Amazon, because they've got a deal over there that you can get a book and they'll ship it to you. You get it in 2 days, and it costs about $22. And as I like to say, if you're going to go out and have lunch, get 2 hot dogs and a beer. You can get that, or you can get a book.
Improve your mind a little bit. What's next for you? What are you going to do? Do you keep doing working for Florida Atlantic?
Yeah, this is like I say, this is my last hurrah, and it gets magnified every day. Hell, a month ago I wouldn't have thought I would have made 50 of these interviews in the waning moments of this football season.
Well, you've made an incredible impression on the game over the decades, and we appreciate the contribution to the game of football that you did, and also to the young men that you coached over the years. And thank you so much for spending time with us today on Lewis at Large.
All right, keep us in mind.
You bet. We'll be back with more right after this on Lewis at Large.